The music industry is playing a $2.7 billion game of keep away with your royalties, and you're losing because you don't know the rules. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 6 royalty levels most indie artists never register to collect in the first place. They're potentially thousands of dollars sitting in accounts with your name on them waiting to be collected. And before we dive into all 6 of these royalty levels, I've created a really cool royalty collection roadmap that breaks down where to register each type of royalty and all the step-by-step instructions to make sure that you earn every single penny. Links in the description if you want to download it and follow along as we go through all these different levels. So let's say this is your song you're about to release. It's the main character in the game, and it's got 2 different loadouts that earn money separately. You have the first side, which is the master recording. This is the actual sound file that the listener hears. And then you have the other side, which is the composition, the underlying order of notes, the chords, the lyrics. This earns a completely separate royalty. When you activate both sides of this character, you unlock all 6 royalty levels that we're about to cover. Let's first start with the biggest hidden treasure that most artists completely miss. Pandora, SiriusXM, and iHeartRadio aren't like Spotify or Apple Music. They're considered non-interactive digital radio platforms where listeners actually can't control which specific songs they can listen to. But despite all that, your music still gets played on these platforms, and because of that, you earn royalties. But unless you're registered in the right place, that money never reaches you. But here's what most artists don't know. Unlike with your distributor, these royalties won't automatically come to you. And there are tens of millions of dollars in unclaimed funds right now. And if you don't register within 3 years, if your song maybe goes viral, that money disappears forever or gets handed over to the major labels. Even worse, most artists who do register still miss out because they only sign up for one part that they're owed. The system splits payments like this. 45% goes to the feature artist, 5% goes to session musicians, and then the remaining 50% goes to the master recording owners. If you own your masters, which most indies do, you're entitled about 95% of these royalties, but only if you register it correctly. To collect all your digital radio royalties, you'll need to register with this company called Sound Exchange. It's the only organization in the US that pays out this specific royalty. Registration costs about 15 minutes of your time to actually do. You need your ISRCs from your distributor, a photo ID, basic tax information, and banking details for direct deposit. You're pretty much going to need those kinds of details for all the things that we're going to talk about today, so just keep that in mind. Once you're signed up, you'll submit your recordings, manage your catalog, and then actually track your earnings. For this level, I would give it a difficulty rating of like 3 out of 5 stars because the whole process is pretty simple and it's completely worth it. So now let's move on to level 2, where there's over $500 million in mechanical royalties just waiting to be claimed. Now, in order to access this level, you need to switch from your master recording side to your composition loadout, the side that you earn royalties as a songwriter for. Every single time your track is streamed on platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, or Amazon, you're actually owed a mechanical royalty tied to the underlying composition, not just your recording. But here's where it gets tricky. Your distributor doesn't collect this money either. Starting to see a pattern here. Collecting these kinds of mechanical royalties basically required for you to actually know a guy in the industry to make some type of direct deal with streaming services, or going through some type of publishing admin deal where they actually took a cut. As a result, millions of dollars in songwriter royalties went unclaimed, dumped into that infamous black box where if they get left untouched, they get redistributed out to the majors again. I've seen indie artists uncover thousands they didn't know that they were actually missing simply because they never registered with the right organization. The trick here is to register with the Mechanical Licensing Collective, also known as the MLC. It's a non-profit organization, and it's actually the only place to collect these types of royalties for US streaming platforms. And it's completely free to join. They even let you claim back royalties from before you signed up, which is like unheard of. For this, I would give it a difficulty rating of 2 out of 5, just because it's very easy to set up. You only do it once with one form, and you unlock years of uncollected payments, which is pretty awesome. Level 2 completed. So now that your song is finally earning on the composition side here in the US and on the master side, what happens when our music gets spinned across radio stations in Tokyo or Berlin or Johannesburg? That's where level 3 actually comes into play, because most artists don't even know they're earning overseas. So let's say in theory that your song actually picks up on the algorithms and goes viral. It's getting played everywhere across the world. In most countries, when that happens, you earn royalties as a performer, separate from anything else you would earn or collect from streaming, even if you're not physically present. For some artists with international audiences, especially like in K-pop and stuff like that, it even outpaces their streaming income. But here's where it gets weird. The US doesn't fully recognize these kinds of performer rights at all. But in most other countries, they do pay the performers, even if they're a US-based artist. The problem is, though, that these international royalties are nearly impossible to collect on your own, especially if you didn't even know they existed. Every country has its own collection society. You need local representation there, tax documents, registrations in dozens of different languages. And if you don't claim that money, it gets redistributed redistributed to bigger artists based on the market share. I've met with artists who've toured overseas, charted in other countries, and left 5 figures on the table simply just because they didn't know it existed, or even where to start. The way to unlock this level in royalty stream is through neighboring rights agencies. These are companies that specialize in international performance royalties for your recordings. Neighboring rights agencies have direct relationships with collection societies across the world. They handle all that messy stuff we just talked about so that you can collect from over 40 different countries without actually having to manage it all yourself. Here's some options here you can check out. Again, we'll have a list of these things down in the description for free. They usually come with a 10 to 20% commission fee, but they're collecting all your royalties that you would never get otherwise. So I think that's a pretty fair share. Difficulty for me, this is going to be a 4.7 out of 5 because it's way more complex. But if you're an artist that's gotten any type of global footprint in the last couple years, this could easily turn into a recurring income for years and years to come. Okay, next level. Your song is still out in the world. It's not just being streamed, it's being played live, radio, background of those restaurants and gyms actually in the country as well. Every time that happens, a royalty is triggered. And now it's not earning on the composition side, it's earning on the master side. This one pays you as the songwriter, which is performance royalties. They become a lifelong income stream. This is actually what made me curious earning royalties when I was younger and playing in different funk groups. We would write our own music and then register these songs with these organizations in order to get paid twice, once during the gig and then once after the gig for performing our actual music. In fact, they continue paying out for 70 years after you die, which is really cool. Thanks to copyright. Some songwriters earn millions annually alone from just this level, even as an independent artist, because these royalties normally add up over time, but none of that money comes to you automatically because radio stations, venues, and streaming services don't know who wrote each song, and they definitely don't have a way to pay thousands of songwriters directly. If you haven't registered your songs in the right places, all this money goes uncollected. What makes this even trickier is that there's no single universal collector for this. You have to choose the right organization to join. They don't all work the same way, which is really weird. Some charge fees, some don't. Some only operate in certain regions, others operate in other regions. We call this level the performance royalty level. And the only way you can collect is you need to register and sign up with an affiliate performance rights organization, or PRO for short. In the US, the primary ones are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. A lot of them have similarities, but again, if you look at the description in the bottom, we section off the minute differences that they all have. PROs collect performance royalties when your compositions are played publicly in shows, on radio, stadiums, TV, streaming platforms, live venues, everything. The way it works is that businesses pay specific licenses or fees so that they're allowed to play your music in their places of business. And then those PROs collect fees and distribute those royalties to the affiliated songwriters and publishers. The royalties are typically split 50% to the songwriter and then 50% to the publisher. To collect both shares, you have to be registered as both a writer and a publisher. Difficulty on this, I'm going to give it a 3.726 out of 5, just because the process is pretty straightforward to maximize your earning potential, but there's a lot of extra registration things that you have to just know. Now, level 5, we're going to just zoom by this really quickly. It's your distributor. Everyone knows about this one because that's how you get your music onto these streaming platforms. They collect mechanical royalties, all that basic stuff that most artists get. I rate this a 1 out of 5 in difficulty just because it's super simple to set up and also the only way you can really get your music onto these major streaming platforms. Only caveat I would give you is that you need to make sure you watch out for weird terms of services, AI training clauses, and weird hidden fees. So the best alternate option is to go direct to consumer, which is why I always recommend stuff like Bandcamp or Even, and there's a couple other options as well. So you've unlocked 5 different royalty levels for your one song, but this next level, it hit different. This is the boss level. One song can potentially pay more than 1 million streams in one single day without you even being famous. It pays on both sides of your song, the master recording and the composition, and when it airs publicly, you collect performance royalties every single time as well. This goes on for years, but here's the problem. Levels locked. You don't get access just by uploading to a platform, contrary to popular belief. Gatekeepers are actually there deciding who gets in and who doesn't. Most artists never even make it past the first door. The boss level I'm talking about is called sync licensing, and in this video here, I'm going to break down the whole entire process so that you understand how to get started the right way and start earning a real living off of your music.